Hey YouTube, welcome back to another video, and this one is going to be actually having some content that's useful, not like the crappy other three videos. Okay, so stick with me for a while. Now, what is this video about? So this video is about a personal thing or a common problem in front-end development that I also encountered while building myself a blog, and I actually didn't want to go and solve it the traditional way. So I was just scraping my hands on something and I landed on a little bit of something which I wanted to share with you right now. A big disclaimer up front that this is not something that I'm 100% sure why it works and why it doesn't at some times, which I'm going to tell you at the end of the video. But this is not at all production ready code, right? Not till I make a video and tell you, okay, I have this brilliant idea and you can use this in production. So don't use it in production till then. So without wasting any more time, let's dive right in. Okay, so what is the problem? So my problem is that I want to make myself a blog. Sounds very simple. There are 100 million tools for that already available, but I don't want to pay any third-party service. I don't want to make it with WordPress, and I don't want to use any CMS. And taking it a little more forward, I actually don't even want to use any server-side language. Now you might think, well, that's stupid. Hear me out. That might totally be stupid for your use case, but how I look at it, and if I make another video on how I write my blogs, you will get the idea that I don't actually need that. It's simple HTML written on a little bit of CSS and a tiny bit of JavaScript. That's it. What I want to convey to my audience is actually just the idea written in HTML. I'm not going to do any fancy demos, code integrations, nothing. The most code integration that I do in my blogs come from GitHub gists, right? So that's my argument against not using any simple, even the mild ones like PHP and others. So that's my argument. Now, how am I serving this? So basically, my server for this is a simple request server that is comes with Python 3 already installed. So it's the simple HTTP server. Okay, so I start it, and if I go to this, then I get served my content, right? Good, sounds great to me. Now my problem started when I started adding stuff to it. So this is basically how the navigation and everything works. So once I close this section right here is the pain in the butt. So my problem here is that every time I add a new blog, what I have to do is I have to come down here and repeat this whole damn thing, right? And I don't want to do that. So my problem is this. My actual big problem is I don't want to do that. Now say if I were using something like a PHP, right, and this file would have been something like index.php, I could have easily gone ahead, read the content of the blog directory and created a loop and populated these on the server, then served to you, and that would have been great, no questions about it. But what if I don't? So that was my problem, and I kept looking for some answers. Now I remember the times when there were PHP hostings all over there. There used to be this thing called 000webhost.com, right? And they had this thing called CNAME. Now I don't know what exactly these things were, but I remembered one faint thing, and that thing was when I used to go to some, say, a directory, right? Say there is a blogs directory in my folder. If I used to go to that, I used to get a list like this, right? And that gave me a slight bit of idea, right? So for my projects, what I need to do is I have a projects directory. If I go there, I see a listing of my projects. Now I didn't make this, and this is the first question, and maybe let's come to that later. Okay, so I get this HTML page served to me. Now my first instincts were, is this an HTML page for real? So to confirm that, I just opened up my DevTools and just had to come here and it's a pretty decently written page. It has a UL and all the links are inside li items. Great. So I have a mechanism actually to get the description of a directory, but this looks a little vague. So I had my doubts. So what I did, and the first thing I did is I tried to actually request this via curl. So let's try that. So or better wget. So because it's I wanted to be in a format of a get request, so wget does that really good. So it tells me that it was able to get this HTML file, right? So okay, that boosted my confidence, and let's check out if the HTML file is there, right? So vim index html1, and voila, I got that. Okay, great, good start. Now what I did is I was like, okay, that's some progress. Now let's try to fetch it. And what I mean by fetch is actually use the fetch API. So here's my approach, right? So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to make a fetch request to this URL and get this HTML page. Now once I have this HTML page, what I'm thinking is maybe I can actually like use regex or something like that, or maybe parse it somehow, right? So if I can parse it, I can get the anchor tags, right? And once I have the anchor tags, I can do all kinds of crazy DOM manipulations with that, and then I would have a link, right? So that was my initial thought. Then what happened is then I realized that it was getting too complicated to write, and the fact that I know for a fact that HTML can't be passed with regex because it's not a Turing complete language, it made the thing even harder, right? So I was trying all sorts of crazy regexy things, and I had some success to some extent, but it was too complicated. I had to write several functions, and then it struck to me, I was using a language that already has a DOM manipulation engine built into it. It already has a mechanism to operate all sorts of fancy database relational declarative query like formatting and stuff built with it. And I'm talking about JavaScript here. So this is my final approach I landed. It's pretty neat. So what I do is I fetch the whole thing, then I get a response, and the response is the whole meta. Then what I do is I convert it into a text. So basically at this point data is the whole HTML converted as a string. Okay, so basically it's just string data. Then I created a dev element and I called it root. And then what I did is, and this is the clever bit, what I did is I took the HTML and I inserted it as in DOM entity in my root. So what it basically looks like is at this particular point of time, so if I come here and if I do something like this, then what it looks like is I have a div and I have using div here, and then I have that whole HTML and it. So I have this whole thing and there are other stuff inside it, but that doesn't matter because I have this semantic structure now, right? So with that in place, what I could easily do is I could rely on JavaScript and its internal DOM engine to execute queries for me. I didn't have to pass shit then. I was golden. I had to just work with JavaScript and use the existing APIs for query it gives me, and I was golden. So then what I did is I pulled out that whole list. So remember when we inspected and right here, so all the links are inside this unordered list, right? So what I did is I pulled that out. Okay, now with that I have this unordered list in my memory, right? And the great thing about JavaScript DOM engine is that you can operate on DOM elements as nodes in memory. So what I have with me here is that I have a UL that's an order list, and then I have list items, and then inside those list items there are anchor tags, right? Now this is the exact structure that I use on my home page. So I didn't need to modify it at all. What I needed to do is just change tiny bit stuff here and there. So basically like change this text into some way, maybe style it a little and stuff like that, right? And also add some additional properties if I wanted to. So what I did is I actually selected all the anchor tags inside here, and with the reference loop, so for each will give me an existing reference on the anchor tags. So here I have the one, so basically here what I'm doing is I am pulling out all the anchor tags inside the list, then I'm going over each one, pulling it out as a reference and modifying it a slightly bit. So here I add two attributes. These are nothing special but just some security and stuff. This line is important. What this does is it actually provides me with a proper path, so that if I'm coming to on this page from a root of the directory, then I can land on the proper thing, right? So that's there. Then I modified the text a little because I wanted to get rid of this forward slash because it indicates it's a directory and I don't want to show that. And I also replace these hyphens with spaces because that's how I'm going to write my file names, folder names, actually directory names, because that's the format I am most comfortable with and that's what I write. And then I just had to append that in main. So that was it. That was actually it. So let's see how it looks, right? So at this particular point of time, this looks something like this, and it's pretty cool. Now let's go ahead and add another folder here. So hey YouTube, and I spelled YouTube wrong, so don't kill me. But hey, and if I go here and here, working. So what we did is we did what a server would for you, or a server language do for you in plain JavaScript. Now, as I said, this is not production ready code. You might not see anything wrong with it at this point, and I personally wrote this, I am in love with this, but I still see a few wrong things about it. First of all, I'm not sure why this doesn't work on GitHub pages. I tried to deploy this on GitHub pages, but it didn't work. For that, maybe I'm thinking that it has something to do with Jenkins, because GitHub pages use Jenkins and stuff like that. So that's one problem. I'm pretty sure this will work seamlessly on, if I like say for example take a VPS on Amazon cloud services or somewhere else and use a static file server like this one, or the live server from Node, or any one for that matter, it will run seamlessly. I'm pretty sure about that. And my second concern is that I'm not actually sure if this brings in some challenges on the aspect of security. I'm really not sure about that. I have no clue. I tried to look it up, but I didn't find it. And my third concern is how, like, so I don't think, quote unquote, that this method has been used somewhere else before, and I'm not sure if this is the right way to do it. And so basically what I'm trying to get to is I don't know what after effects it will have, right? So what I'm thinking of doing is I'm actually gonna like wrap it in a GitHub public file, public directory. What am I saying today? Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create a GitHub public repo for this one, and I'm gonna open up each of these issues in a separate issue. And I'm hoping if you guys like this video, we can chat and discuss and research together about these issues, and maybe like conclude if this is even a good approach forward or not, right? So thank you so much. And before we go, we have to at least try it. So clicking the link, and voila, we have the page working, right? That was a little unnecessary drama I had to put in because I'm a dramatic person, but here you go. This is the video that I actually wanted to make for this channel for a long time, and it's finally happening, so I'm really happy about that. Thank you so much for being on this journey, and maybe I'll see you on the GitHub. repo. Thank you so much for watching and see you in the next one.